Hey team, welcome back to Pack Talk. Me, your host, Pete Vodden. I'm here again with the delightful Emily Cavell / Emily Vodden.
Can't get enough of me.
Yeah, this is kind of part two of this podcast. Part one, we talked about how we are managing the situation of the 4 gyms and the 2 kids. And we basically gave our honest answer. It really truly is just coffee and Buffalo Trace. That's the only way it's working.
That was the formula.
I
gave a whole framework formula that just boils down to coffee and bourbon.
Exactly. But in this podcast, we want to talk about a kind of a time when it was kind of going off the rails, or kind of could have derailed us fairly early on, when we didn't really have any strategies. We were just like, we're just going to get this thing open. We're just going to do Pharos Athletic Club. We're going to make it work. We were just determined, and we were rash, and we were energetic, and we're young and full of beans. But a lot of bad stuff happened, and it could have got bad real quick. And it kind of came to a head with Emily ending up in the hospital for 8 days with Rhabdo. So let's kind of start with that. Like, how the hell did that happen?
All right. So I ended up in the hospital. Yeah, it was 8 days. I got released on the 8th day. And if the short answer, I always say, is because I did GHD sit-ups. But
well, you did GHD sit-ups having not done any. You did a lot of you did 100 GHD sit-ups having not done any GHD sit-ups for 6 months.
Yes,
that's the truth.
Exactly. So really there were 2 reasons that this happened. The first reason was because I had changed my programming. I'm just diving right in, man. I thought I was going to do a lot more foreplay. So the reason that the first reason was that I had started following a program that was just gymnastics. I had just finished a 12-week block that was just working on strict eccentric strength. My goal was to get a muscle up, and I did, in fact, get a muscle up. I got the muscle up, and I was doing a ton of, pulling, pushing, ring dips, pull-ups, all the variations of things, and like all slow and eccentric, nothing kipping, nothing explosive. Like, it was all to develop the strict strength. So I decided that I wanted the muscle up so bad that I was going to stop doing every other training and just focus 12 weeks on only moving the needle forward towards that. So I did get the muscle up. I finished up the 12-week training block, and then I just wanted to have like some fun training, like a deload, deload fun. So I jump in with Jeffrey, one of our original business partners, and Piet, and we did a workout. I don't remember what else was in it, but it was like 50 and 100 and a bunch of things.
I think it was 10 rounds of something and 10 GHD sit-ups or something.
So it ended up being 100 GHD sit-ups. And I got to tell you, like, to think back into that time, it was one of my favorite workouts. Like, I felt so good. I was so excited. I was on top of the world, just like Kiki is here today. I just remember like smile on my face, going back and forth, like loving the group dynamic, so happy to get back into like some fun training. And then it wasn't until
you trained again the next day. I remember that.
I trained the next day and the next day, Peter. I trained the next 2 days. I was literally like, I'm going to push through this, And I mean, I woke up feeling like anytime I ate food, like I remember having breakfast the next morning and it felt like I had swallowed a whole potato that slid down my throat and was stuck in like the base of my stomach. And I was like distended, but it wasn't until 2 days later when I was at a brunch with friends and they were like, oh, let's get some mimosas. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm sitting there miserable, like the whole time feeling awful, not wanting to be there at all. And I had done a run that morning, and then they grabbed we were like cheersing, and I take a sip of it and I put it down, and I'm just kind of like sitting there and looking down at my stomach, and it's like alien, like it was literally like bubbling over and like distending and going crazy. And I knew at that moment that I had fucked up. And so it's interesting. I went to the hospital, was tested for rhabdomyolysis, and had, if you know the numbers, it's like you should have a normal level between like 4 and 127 or something. I had wrote it down here, just to see Yeah, so it should be low, like under 200. And I got admitted, basically your CPK levels. So your creatine phosphate kinase levels. And I got admitted with levels of 44,000. It's like micrograms per liter. Yeah. So normal ranges from 10 to 120. So below 200, like if you're pushing some stress, then it might be at 200, but it should stay really low. So 44,000 was like absolutely insane. And across 8 days, it was just toggling, go down to 12,000 and up to 32 and then down and up and down and up. And so I was just sitting in the hospital for 8 days, just miserable and having a lot of time to look back. And even at that time, I was a big journaler. So I pulled up an excerpt that I had transferred over to a blog post of kind of where I was at this time. And here is what I wrote. You see, for about a year, I've been coasting in autopilot when it comes to my own health and routine. I've basically just been doing the bare minimum in terms of fuel, rest, training protocols, and justifying it with, well, this is what it takes when you're giving 100% to building this business. This is what it takes. A business that is built on optimizing health, healing, and performance, no less. The irony is killing me too. Don't worry. And then I totally remember that. Like it took a while because I think it's easy for me to say, a part of that story is, well, I wasn't doing a balanced training routine. I was going all in on one thing. And then when I tried anything else, my body had shut down. My brain was like, oh yeah, you can do this. But my body was like, you are deconditioned and you shouldn't do this. So I think there's one piece of it that just really enforced, because we just opened up Pharos. It had just started that. And I feel like that moment with Rhabdo kind of like really fueled even more so, like it added fuel to the fire of why our business model or like what we're trying to build is so important. Like that you need multiplicity, that there is no one way is the way, that like if you go dogmatically into one thing and neglect all these other pieces, then you're going to fall apart. So it's almost like starting the business and getting Rhabdo, having this, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to train and I'm going to really excel. And I achieved my goal. Like I got exactly what I wanted. And then the next week I was in the hospital. And so it was, I feel like a really, like looking back now, it was the moment that like reinforce why we're doing this and what we believe in. That like we believe in a balanced training program, that it is, equal parts mechanics, strength and conditioning, equal parts tempo and eccentric, but also working power and explosive energy and like all of that. And then not, and then looking at the patterning and the mechanics and all of like, the function. And then, looking at the internal and your fuel and all of that. I just feel like at that time, I just thought we're going to build this business. And it was a great reminder of like why we're building this business.
And, Emily's a good example, but I've seen this so many times. When anybody goes all in on one thing, it either results in burnout or a lack of motivation, or the wheels always fall off at some point. People that they just do CrossFit daily, they don't do anything else, they get burnt out. People that just do bodybuilding, they're just doing the same like boring bodybuilding routines, they just get bored, they just lose motivation. So Emily's is a cautionary tale about what happens when you neglect a certain side of your fitness and then try and go back into it without scaling back up, because that's the real truth of it, right? If she'd have scaled back into it by doing a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit down, some progressive overload, she would have been fine. But when an athlete goes all in with the same mentality that they've always had, that go, go, go mentality, but their body's not there anymore because it hasn't been training in that way, you get yourself in real trouble, because the mind overpowers the body. It says, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. The body's saying, don't do this to me, don't do this to me, don't do this to me. But the mind overpowers the body, and then you end up in physical trouble. If she'd have scattered into it, she would have been fine. But again, that's what happens if you go all in on one thing and neglect other things. And it's the same thing now when we talk about like rest and recovery and mobility and all that stuff. If you don't pay attention to that stuff, at some point you're going to end up in some kind of physical trouble. So yes, as Emily's saying, like the hybrid mentality, the kind of like multiplicity mentality of ticking different areas of fitness in your life, I think is super important for multiple reasons that I've mentioned on the podcast before, for progress, to continue to make gains, to continue to be motivated, to stay healthy, to stay focused. All of these things will come into it of your fitness life. So of course, sometimes we do go all in on something. So, if you're getting ready for a boxing match, if you're fighting in a bout, like you have to go like all in on boxing as a discipline, right? As a skill, but that doesn't mean you neglect your strength training and you neglect your base cardio work. You still have to do that stuff.
You may pillar it down a little on that dial,
yeah.
but it's not going to zero.
Yeah, you have to highlight the overarching focus. Like, this is my primary goal right now, and these are the secondary things that help me achieve that goal. And you have to build it like that. Again, going all in on any one thing always results in issues of some kind.
So that was the first lesson, is the value of multiplicity. And then the second piece of it is this idea that you really have to create an environment, both internally and externally, for success. That, like, I think as Aries, we say this in the last podcast, but like as Aries, I think our tendency is like, we can do anything and just like act, like act despite how you feel and just like go and, push through. And I think that there is a time for that. But I think unless you have optimized your environment, you can't do that. So for instance, I said, I had been neglecting my health. And I know for a big piece of that is hydration. Like, honestly, it's so annoying to realize as like a health professional that I was in the hospital for 8 days. And the only thing that could save me was literally hydration. Like that what could have prevented it and saved me was probably just better, more proper levels of hydration. And I was just drinking too much coffee and bourbon and not enough, hydration and electrolytes. And I wasn't eating, like I was just eating as needed. And which is usually my tendency. I'm like in a go mode. And so I like forget to eat. But when I prioritize fuel and prioritize breakfast and really prioritize protein, then I find that I'm creating an environment for success. So it's interesting because it's equal parts you balance there, but then also equal parts that if you're going to go, like if you're going to be a high achiever, and we want you to be, like, our mantra is live limitless. Like we say, like you can do anything, but you can't do everything without really like prioritizing. And measuring and having seasons of what it is that you're focused on, and having a balance of, so that there is not a neglect of the things that are basically the building blocks of, surviving, really.
Yeah, and I like to always use the terminology of primary and secondary, like, because it relates to training and that's how my brain works. But like, you have your primary goals in life or your primary action for this week or this month or this year, and then what are the secondary things that help contribute towards that, or the accessory things that help accessorize towards that. You can't just do primary. Like, if you want to get better at squatting, if you want to get better at the back squat, you can't just back squat every day. Like, you have to have accessory stuff. You have to have supplementary stuff that's going to help you improve that back squat. And I think about that with anything in life. Like, whatever you want to do, you can't just do the one thing relentlessly and expect to keep getting results. You have to have secondary stuff and accessory stuff in your life that helps build that overarching primary goal.
Yeah. And that's a big, tall task, right? Like, we talk about this. It's a hard thing for, we're like the suckers that in Pharos, they're like, what is your unique proposition? Like, what is your one thing? And we're like, I guess our one thing is that we're something for everybody, that we have a lot of things. And everyone's like, oh, you can't do that. You must niche down. You must just do the one thing,
Yeah.
And it's so hard because we don't want that. We want to be able to have a lot of balance in our life, to be able to like, go for something, go for gold, but also feel like we're not neglecting all of the other, really important buckets in our life. So
yeah, that's why we have the best business model in the world.
Oh, seriously.
It's the best product with the worst business model.
Maybe that's the next podcast we should talk about. That's all right.
How to make an amazing product and make no money. That'd be our legacy.
It's hard when you're doing it for service. I do go back to this because ultimately I feel like this is a season of our life. It may have been an 8-year season. A decade can be a season. But for us, it's like, we're not doing, like, if the goal was to make money, we would have done that. We're very driven people. We could have just made money. Like, we started this business and we, we're training clients and doing things and making way more than we are making now. Like, we know how to make money. So we have to recognize that, like, we didn't get into this for that. Like, we're playing the long game. And if we're playing the long game, we hope, that it's going to, like, really like pay off one day, but that we're doing this for the sake of community. We're doing this this to build a product that we believe in. We're doing this because, you know, we want to fight against what all the industry standards are saying, that you got to be a 2,000 square foot box that, you know, crams 500 people in it and does, you know, bottom of the barrel kind of everything in the kitchen sink fitness. It's like, we want to build the business that we believe in. Like you always say, we want to build the gym that we would be a part of.
Yeah, we would be a member of,
Whether or not that means that it was quote unquote smart or that we're following the best, protocols in terms of where business models are. But like, we do want to be the best studio fitness with the best coaching, the best programming, the best environment, but we don't want you to have to sacrifice. You should be able to do classes in open gym and have mechanics, strength and conditioning, and that you shouldn't have to choose, you know? Yeah. But if you're going to do everything, then you got to prioritize and schedule and really time block, which goes back to the first episode. This is why it was a 2-parter. So how to do everything all at once and also avoid burnout, because we have totally been there. We speak not because we are perfect. We obviously, like we said before, have bad days and don't always get it right and are constantly like re-navigating and getting the train back on the tracks. But we've come a long way in 8 years. And I think that it is a testament to the community that we have built, and, you know, that you got to have the right people in your corner and that it really does take a village.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, avoiding burnout, it changes as you get older. You know, I'm 46 years old and almost 47. And you do have to listen to your body. Like, I can't do what I did at 21 now that I'm 47. But I will say, like, I've outlasted most. Like, I've known a lot of people over the years in fitness that have come and gone. I've always managed to be consistent in this world, in this field. And I've just done that by kind of being smart with it. Like, I don't do like really hard things like back to back every day. Like, if I do a super hard CrossFit workout on a Monday, I'll tell you now, I'm not doing a super hard CrossFit workout on a Tuesday. You know, I'm doing some kind of like accessory bodybuilding type, lower impact kind of deal. And I'm just listening to my body. I can still do a lot of volume. Like, I've been managed to, like, you know, through this kind of hybrid mentality that we're talking about, like going for runs, like doing strength training, doing bodybuilding workouts, then doing CrossFit workouts here and there, and doing those shorter kind of build pieces. Like, this is the way that I've managed my body and my mentality. I have never had a period where I've lost motivation. Right?
It's annoying.
Maybe
it's honestly the most annoying thing.
The only time I can kind of like think of is like if I've been like really sick, like the flu or something, and then like coming back from that, being like, oh my God, it was so hard to get myself going.
I would say that's literally not even true. Like, you cannot wait to get back into the gym.
Well, because your
body may feel different, but you, like, that mental part of you're always so excited because you know that the gym is like your fresh start. Like, it's the blank state. Like, you know.
Yeah. But like I said, I haven't gone all in every day and been this like go hard or go home every day, kind of like that those dumb t-shirts and all that shit. It's so dumb. Like, you can't possibly ask that of your body long term. You have to be smart with it. You have to be intelligent. There has to be give and take. You have to take rest. Like, I'm pretty serious at an annoying level about sleep. Like 9 o'clock.
I thank you now for it. I used to be annoyed with that too, but now I thank you.
Yeah, it's like, you know, past 9 o'clock, like, I'm not interested. Like, I'm going to bed, I'm done. You know, I get up at either 4 or 5. And, you know, you have to, if you're going to ask a lot of your body, then you have to give it something back. It's like, I'm going to let you rest. I'm going to give you more sleep. I'm going to take my supplementation seriously. And I take my supplementation very seriously. And you can read all kinds of stuff online about this works, this doesn't work. There's no proof behind that. There's no science behind that. Well, I'm like, all right, but I'm kind of living proof that I've been doing this a long time, and I'm kind of, like I said, I'm still kind of going pretty strong, and I'm kind of outlasting a lot of people. So I'll do what I think works because it's worked for me. And, you know, I'd rather value my own experience and think the things that, you know, like I've noticed over the years, rather than reading the most current study this week that next week will be proved wrong, and then the week after that they'll prove it the other way. And
you
then
still read it, though. Your mind taught.
I still read it, but it's like, you know, I'm always gonna, you know, again, value real experience over theory. But anyway.
On that note, I did want, well, we're wrapping up, but I did want to just say, if you are interested in doing like a Rhabdo specific podcast, sometimes like I'll write blogs or I'll do a podcast. And then some people who have had Rhabdo will reach specifically out. I always answer. If that has happened to you, if it's happened to your friend, if it's happened multiple times. I've been in the hospital 3 times now because like it takes a long road to kind of get back, and it is a process. I also had a whole supplementation routine. I changed changed the way that I ate for a long time. I totally adopted a progressive overload, mechanic, strength, and conditioning, starting from the very basics and then moving on. And then, of course, I repeated it twice again, having children, and just started and then learning through that experience how to start from scratch and build back to where you were, or even better.
Yeah. And when it comes to like building out a program to stop you from burnout and kind of living that optimal life, the best way to do that really is the Limitless Challenge. We have the Limitless Challenge coming up at the end of April 21st.
April 21st until June 1st. Registration's open.
Yeah, registration's open.
Unless you're listening to this after.
Yeah. And that really is, our opportunity to build it out for you and just say, listen, this is the reality. This is where we're at right now. This is how we can move forward. This is what your week looks like. This is what your month looks like. And it's our best opportunity to do that. Like I keep saying, like it's the best that Pharos has to offer because it's what we envisioned in the first place. Like this is how a person who wants to live an active lifestyle needs to live it without getting burnt out, but still getting results. That's kind of the deal. Like we all want to get results. We want to make progress. We all want to like maybe have lower body fat or increase lean muscle tissue, but it doesn't work if you just keep going harder and harder and harder and harder and expecting to get better and better and better and better results. It has to be measured, it has to be controlled, and it has to be managed. And it's our job to help you manage that. That is, in essence, the Limitless Challenge.
Totally. So join in with us on the Limitless Challenge. We're doing it at all 4 locations. So from Palm Springs to Redondo to Echo Park to Idlewild, we're all in this together. It is 6 weeks. You get set up with a one-on-one coach to map out fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. Like you said, we really try to build it out into not a 6-week quick fix, but how can we build a formula that helps you get results that last without burnout.
Yeah.
All right,
you guys. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. Come visit us at all our locations. Please follow us on Instagram at Pharos Athletic Club. Please like the YouTube channel. It really helps. Share with your friends if you feel like it. We appreciate it. And me and Em will see you soon in the gym. Take care. Bye.